Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Julio Quiralte. I am one of the career specialists here at Sam Houston State University. The Career Coffee Chats was my brainchild because I love an afternoon cup of coffee and I like talking about careers. Today we are joined by a very sweet lady who's been such a great partner with our office, Miss Betsy Montañez. She's with the FDM group, and I'm going to let her tell you exactly what FDM does, what they're looking for. And like today's presentation is really about the recruiters and how to work with them and what they're looking for. So hopefully you can get some really good information as you get ready to go into your senior year and start going to the career fairs. Really hoping that come fall, we will be doing them in person again. So it's a good time to get prepared, not only for the virtual ones, but also for the ones in person. I will put, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat and we'll address them at the end. So Ms. Montañez, the floor is yours.
Great, thank you. First of all, like Julio said, my name is Betsy Montañez. I come from New York City, so greetings from New York City. I have been with the FDM group as a university partnerships manager. It'll actually be 1 year this March. Previous to that, I spent about 15, almost close to 16 years in higher education myself. So I was most recently the Director of Student Veterans at NYU. Previous to that, Director of Student Veterans at Bronx Community College, CUNY, and the forget exactly what my title was, but basically military recruiter at Montclair State University in New Jersey, which was actually my alma mater. So I have my bachelor's in political science and my master's in counseling with a concentration in student affairs. So I've spent a really long time in higher education working with students and really helping, mostly student veterans, really helping them transition into academia and then transition into civilian careers. So interestingly enough, I found myself at FDM's door a year ago around this time, and I took the opportunity to work with them as a university partnerships manager. And what that means is I'm responsible for all the relationships that we build with the universities throughout the US. So FDM, right? You probably hear the initials and you have no idea what that means. I was actually found FDM because of the work that I did with them with my student veterans. So I used to actually refer a lot of my student veterans to them. So I start with that before even telling you what FDM does, because I thought, wow, what an opportunity to work for a company that puts their money where their mouth is, And so what I mean by that is because FDM is a UK-based global information technology and business consulting firm. And so we're very well known throughout the world. We have 13 offices, ranging from APAC to Germany to UK, here in the US as well as Canada. We have 4 offices in the US, one right in Austin, Texas. Headquarters are in New York City, New York. We have office in Charlotte, North Carolina, and the Metro DC area, so Arlington, Virginia, right? And so what we're known for is recruiting young talent like yourselves, recent university graduates. We're known for recruiting veterans, service members who are transitioning out of the military. And we're also known for our Returners to Work program, which isn't as well known here in the US as it is overseas. And what we do is we basically bridge the gap between the skill set that you have, in your case, your academic skill set in the military, their military skill set. We train you up and then we place you with our clients. So basically our model is recruit, train, deploy. Recruit talent, train them, and I can talk about that a little bit more, and deploy them with clients as FDM full-time consultants. What's neat about FDM, and the reason I came over here to work here, is because we don't really get hung up on professional resume experience. Let me break it down this way. When you're applying for a job, and this is going to happen to you guys quite often, you're going to hear, oh, well, we're looking for somebody who has about 2 years of professional experience. And you're going to say to yourself, well, if you don't give me this job, how am I going to get 2 years of professional experience? So here at FDM, we're like, yep, nope, we're good. We're taking you fresh out of school. We understand that. We're going to build up your skills. We're going to train you in the FDM way and all the market-driven training that's out there. And we're going to place you with our clients that you may not have been able to work with because you're missing that 2 years of experience. And we're going to help you launch your career. And then typically what we see a lot of our consultants is after their 2-year commitment with FDM is up, they either transition with the client or they stay on with FDM or they go on to a different client site. And the idea is now they do have that 2 years of relevant professional experience. And so the world is your oyster at that point. I was listening, y'all have a lot of different majors. So I'm not gonna just keep talking about what we do here at FDM. So if you're interested in launching a career in information technology and or business, and you're saying to yourself, well, I don't have a computer science degree or I don't have a business degree, we're here to help you with that. If you're saying to yourself, well, I don't have 2 years of relevant professional experience, we can help you with that. So I'm going to throw in if I know how to use this thing, I'm going to put my LinkedIn in the chat. Feel free to reach out to me directly about opportunities at FDM or in general about the conversation that we're going to have today. So, okay. Like I said, I know a lot of you have different majors and you might not be interested in information technology, and that's absolutely fine. I'm going to share a little bit with you about my journey of kind of how I got where I am. I'm going to be very transparent with you guys, even share some experiences that you've probably never heard recruiters share with anybody before in the past. But I don't really want this to be a one-sided conversation. I appreciate your time and that you're here. So drop those questions in the chat. If Julio's okay with it, I'm okay with you guys coming off mute and asking questions. I really want this to be interactive. So as I mentioned, I was in higher education for, obviously I'm not very good at math, 15, 16 years, I forget. When I graduated from Montclair State University, I went to work in law. I thought I was going to be a lawyer. Specifically, I thought I was going to be a lawyer in the Marine Corps. As you can see, I'm neither one nor the other. But that is what I wanted to do since as long as I can remember. And by a lot of sets of circumstances, that did not become my fate because of injuries. And frankly, I didn't get into law school. And so what that taught me, though, in my career is flexibility and transferable skills. And you're going to hear me say that a lot. So I knew what I wanted, but I also knew that I had to be flexible enough to, find a job and find the career and kind of try out different things until I fell in love with it. So I was working in a law firm. I went back to my alma mater to work in admissions. And I'm not going to lie, I did not look for a job as a admissions recruiter on purpose. I took the first job that was available at my alma mater because I was actually going back to be the wrestling coach. I wrestled in college. I was the only female on the team. We were going to start a women's program. So I was like, great, this is an on-campus job. Never in a million years did I think it would take me to where I am now. And I'm so grateful for it. When they asked me, what experience do you have as a recruiter? I shared with them all my volunteer work, my recruitment work that I had done with my sorority, my recruitment work that I had done on my wrestling team, recruiting other female wrestlers and things of that nature. And so basically what I did is I set the stage and used my transferable skills. Hey, maybe I didn't do this in a professional setting, but I showed them all the relevant qualities they were looking for, how I had already done that in my student leadership work, in my student athlete work, and even in my volunteer work. I never had an internship. I didn't have time. I had to work while I was in school. So I worked in admissions. I loved it. I went and got my master's degree because I thought I was always going to stay in, higher ed. And right around 2008, the post 9/11 GI Bill, as you guys know, it came out. And the director of admissions, or one of the directors of admissions at that time, said, don't you have some connection to the military? And I was like, told her my story. Yeah, I was trying to go into the Marine Corps as an officer. She's like, well, do something with this. And it was like the gift that was dropped on my lap because I got to create my own program. and my vision, direction from mentors and stuff. And so I made it my own. And from there, I started a career working with student veterans. And so fast forward my career up until most recently, I was the director of veteran services at NYU. Awesome, dream job, right? NYU, one of the largest universities in the city. This is great. It's got a great reputation. I'm going to leverage this and do great work for my veterans. I'm going to go back to school and finally get my PhD. Life is great. May 2019, NYU discontinues the Veterans Office, and I found myself unemployed for the first time since I was 15 years old. And I will tell you, I was scared. I was ashamed. It was very hard for me to say the words, I am unemployed, because I felt that that was a reflection of my character. And I had to get over that. I had to put my big girl pants on and say, nope, I'm charging ahead and I'm going to use this as an opportunity, right? What can I do next in my career? I'm pretty young, I'd like to think. And so I started venturing out and again, focusing on my transferable skills. A lot of folks pigeonholed me and said, all you know how to do is work with students. All you know how to do is work with veterans. But I showed them through my cover letter by taking that job description and saying, you're looking for somebody who does this. Well, I did exactly that by creating this program for my veterans or by doing this for my students or however. I one-on-one showed them how all the work that I've done was transferable into this current position I have now. Oh, we want you to meet with different universities and create partnerships. That's great. I've worked at universities. All my friends work in universities. Let me leverage my network. So they were like, well, what recruitment experience do you have? Well, I started veterans programs from scratch. I had to recruit student veterans to attend the universities that I worked at. What kind of diversity experience do you have? Well, I worked in a public 4-year, I worked in a public 2-year community college, and I worked in a 4-year private school. So I had a lot of diversity there. The point was I wasn't leaving anything for them to guess. I was telling them, this is my transferable skill. This is where everything I've done in my past plugs into what I want to do now here in my future. I'd like to say FDM was smart enough to see my talent and hire me. They were one of the companies that was able to see past just what was on paper and say, yeah, we get it. We get your experiences and we can see how you're going to apply that to this new opportunity. And I'm thrilled. I'm happy. I'm so happy that I was able to join a company that respected my experience and is continuing to let me do events like this, right? Where I still get to work with students, which is ultimately my passion. I still get to mentor. I still get to coach. Yeah, not a lot of companies do that. So, again, I found myself unemployed. Do you take that first job? Because the bills got to get paid, right? But it was important for me to find, just like when you guys found that fit for your university, it was important for me to find that fit with another company whose culture and values lined up with mine. And so I was very open when I was interviewing. I was very open with FDM and I said to them, look, I'm always going to be student centered. And they were like, that's what we love about you, because we want somebody who's going to help students create careers here. So if you want to do that in a student centered way, then go for it. And sign me up. How do I become part of this team? So that's kind of my journey in a nutshell. Like I said, probably not something you're going to hear from a lot of recruiters. I'm not too sure how many folks share the fact that they were unemployed for almost a year, but it's a reality. It's where we are. COVID increased that for a lot of people, and it made it really scary. And so I share that with you all because I can empathize with you guys what it's going to be like when you're going out into the workforce after you get out of school, hopefully soon, right? And I know what it's like to get all those no's. I know what it's like to not even hear from companies sometimes. And so it's tough. It's not easy. You have to be resilient. And there's days that you're going to say to yourself, this sucks. I got no better words for you. And you're just going to be like, I don't want to do this anymore. And you know what? Give yourself the room, take a moment, step away from it, and then hit the ground hard again the next day. And you're at it the next day. One of the things I had to remind myself during that process, and I want to share with you guys, because you're going to have to remind yourselves about this all the time, is when you're turned down from a job opportunity, you're not being rejected. Okay. It's not personal. They're not rejecting you, Emily, or you, Benjamin. Okay. They're really just basing a decision on a piece of paper. So we want to make sure that that piece of paper does put you in the best light and does help you put your best foot forward. But ultimately, it's not personal. They're not rejecting you. They're rejecting essentially your resume. And that rejection could be the difference of Julio and I are runners. And he puts down on his hobbies that, you know, his personal hobbies are marathons and all the crazy other things that we do. And so he and I connect from that. And so now I have two candidates that are exactly alike, both extremely qualified, but I connected with Julio on that personal note. And that's it. That's as simple as it could be sometimes. You know, oh, you went to my alma mater. Networks are huge. And I want to talk to you guys about networking. Oh, you did this volunteer work. I do that volunteer work. I work in the Boys and Girls Club. I'm so glad that that's, you know, and that's it. That could be the tiebreaker sometimes. So that's why I say, again, they're not rejecting you as a person. They're just rejecting your piece of paper. All right, I'm going to stop talking. I don't know if we have any questions, please. I feel like that'll be more insightful to you guys and impactful than hearing me ramble on and on and on, because I can.
In terms of like resumes, I've always got the advice back and forth that like you should keep it to like one page. Like, does that really affect like judgments?
Okay, so I hear that all the time too, and it's funny because when I was going through my job search, you know, everybody was saying to me like, you need to cut down, and I was like, I can't put 15 years of experience on one page. My resume is 4 pages long. My answer to that is it has to be relevant. Okay, if you're just filling stuff up to fill it up, I'm bored. I'm bored. I'm human. I'm bored. I moved on. It has to be relevant. The idea that you can use the same resume for every single job, just like a cover letter, there's going to be times that you're going to have to tweak your resume towards that job description. I always tell my students when they're asking, what do I have to put on my resume? Grab the job description. The job description basically is the resume written for you. I take my job description and I highlight, oh, I've done that. I've done that. I've done that. Oh yeah, I did that in a different way, but I've done that. And that's the stuff that I start putting into my resume. The other thing that you want to add to resume is the intangibles, right? Those soft skills. That's probably the hardest thing to articulate. Like, how do you articulate creativity and resiliency and all of that? And that's when I start looking at some of the things that I might have done in my career or in my volunteer work or things of that nature, right? So you kind of want to do that. But yeah, the one sheet, if you're giving me 3 pages of relevant experience, I'm going to read all 3 pages. I've seen 1-pagers that are fluff, and I was like, there's nothing on here that matters. So I wouldn't go on how long it is. I would go on its relevance.
Thank you.
Sure.
Betsy, can you talk a little bit about what you want to see when a student approaches you at a career fair?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so career fair. So the first thing I'm going to say is prepare. So y'all work very hard on your resumes and you want us to read them, right? Carefully. I work really hard on those job postings. So I want you to read them too. So that's my best advice is prepare as much as possible for your fair. If you're really interested in a company, go through their website. Don't go up to a recruiter and say, give your elevator pitch, which is great. I love elevator pitches, right? But don't give your elevator pitch and say, okay, where do you see me in your company? I don't know. I want to know where you see yourself in my company. It's almost like when you go to school and you're like, okay, well, what should I major in? Well, we can't tell you what to major in, right? You have to follow your passions. So do a little bit of research about the company, check to see what positions they have posted, if any. Talk about what you're interested in doing, but make sure you're being flexible about it. So what I mean by that is, so if you see a posting, you say, you know, I saw this job that you have, so I'll use my positions because I know them off the top of my head. I see that you have software development and I'm really interested in software development, but I'm not opposed to looking at your business intelligence position as well. So now what I hear is direction, but flexibility. Okay. Now, if you happen to be at a career fair and you stumble on, or you want to give a company that you've never heard of a chance, that's okay too, right? You're not going to be prepped for that, and that's fine. So look, again, I know FDM is not a very well-known company. So I understand when students come up to me and they're like, you know what, I saw a little bit about, I see that you're information technology and business. Can you tell me a little bit more about your company? That's fine too. That's okay. Instead of going up there and saying, this is my elevator pitch, what jobs do you have open for me? That never works. As far as the career fair, again, I would say prepare, have your list of the companies you want, have a list of companies that you want to learn more about. And then I would say pick some randoms that you've never heard of, because you never ever know who has what opportunity available to you. We do a lot of software development here. And so there are better known, larger companies that do a lot of the things we do too. And I've noticed a lot of students will flock towards those companies. Sometimes the small boutique company is going to be perfect for you. Because they're small, they may teach you and give you more opportunities than you would have had at a larger company. So don't discount that at all. So that's why I say, kind of like when you did your college list, right? You had your first choice schools. You had, I hate saying safety schools, but you had safety schools, right? All of that. Do the same thing with your companies. Absolutely.
Thank you. Benjamin, I might have jumped in right ahead of you. I'm sorry about that, but go ahead if you have questions.
It's okay. So I was just wondering, so like I have applied for several jobs last year and this year, but I haven't really gotten one. But I was just wondering, like when I graduate, how would I convey that like the pandemic was very hard for like the job market and I was unemployed for so long? How would I convey?
So no one doesn't know that at this point, right? Everybody's in the same boat. It's a global pandemic. So for a recruiter not to be aware of that, I'd be in shock. I have seen some very interesting things. I have seen folks, just put it on their resume. So example, if you were let go from your position, I've seen folks where, the start date to the end date, and then parentheses, laid off due to COVID, and that's fine. And I appreciated that. It was right there. It was in black and white. There's no hiding it. It is what it is. We get that. We're all in the same boat. I was unemployed before COVID. And so I remember saying to myself, how do I address that as well, right? Because I didn't want people to think like she just didn't work for a year. So you know what? You drive the conversation. Don't let it be a question. You set it up. But the important thing about driving that conversation when you're going to address like, yeah, it's I haven't been employed since I lost my position due to COVID, right? Make sure you're positive about it, right? Once you start saying like, this was the worst thing that could have happened to me, this and that, it's the worst thing that could have happened to everybody, right? Like we get that. So, yes, unfortunately, I lost my position to COVID, as did many, but you know what? I use this as an opportunity to start thinking outside of the box. And while I've been, looking for a job actively, I've been filling my time with volunteer work, or I took extra classes or something to that effect. Nobody wants to know you binge watch Netflix. We all did it. We all know it. No one wants to admit to it. But tell me about what you did positively. How, again, show me resiliency, right? We're all in the same boat together. How did you come out of this a better person from basically tragedy, right? So yeah, but drive the conversation, and there's no need to hide it. There's no need to be ashamed of it. You lost your job to COVID. You haven't been able to find a job because of COVID. Your job was rescinded because of COVID. Your internships were canceled because of COVID. Put it out there. We get it. We all know it. We're all in the same boat.
Awesome. Thank you.
One of the articles that I came across mentioned that one of the questions that a lot of employers were asking was, what have you been doing in the last year?
Yep.
So the main thing, just to kind of piggyback on what Betsy said, is that anytime you're going to have to mention something that didn't go well, or something that went wrong, or you got fired, or you got let go, always turn it around and make it a positive. I was let go. I was a server. We closed for 3 months and I was let go. But since then, I've learned Spanish. Like, turn it around, give us something positive, because that's what employers ultimately want, is that resiliency that Betsy was talking about.
Absolutely. Speaking of servers, I'm going to jump in really quickly with this, because I find one of the biggest, I'll just call it a mistake, that we make is we discount our experiences on our resumes. Let me clarify. I was a waitress, a server, right? I was a server, and I had that front and center on my resume for the longest time, because I made sure to show that I explained I was a trainer. I was explained that I was given the responsibility of opening and closing the store. It was where I learned customer service, conflict resolution. If anybody's ever served or bartend or any kind of customer, there's customers that are annoyed. That's conflict resolution. I managed a small team. I organized the schedule. All of these things are transferable skills. And a lot of times I find when I'm meeting with students, especially when we're talking about their resume, they're like, well, I was just There's no such thing as just you had an experience, it's valid. Whether it's a paid experience, a volunteered experience, a student leadership experience, student athlete experience, those are all transferable skills. Do not discount your experiences. So you're not just a server or just a security guard. I've heard this all. I just worked in the warehouse. No, find the transferable skills out of that. Talk about projects that you've done in school that highlight some of the skills that may be looking for. So like, for instance, as a matter of fact, y'all will be the first to know, I'm actually hiring a campus recruiter for my Austin office, in case you're interested. One of the things I look for is presentation skills. And I've had students explain to me, yeah, during my communications class, I gave several presentations, and I was like, genius, great. Thanks for showing me where you got that practice. So do not discount your experiences. You are not just highlight what you've done. I think, and again, you never know who's on the other end reading that. So if I see a fellow server, yeah, we're going to connect because I remember, and that's a hard job. So yeah, make sure you're highlighting all of those transferable skills. The best way to do that, if you don't know where to start, is Google some terms and stuff, put it all together, bring it over to your campus career office and let them clean it up with you. not for you, with you. So do your work. Google is your best friend. Get some ideas. Yes, I've had some doozies where I'm like, I can't believe you copied this from Google, but that's okay. That's what your career office is for. We love to see that you guys laid the groundwork, and then we're going to help you build upon that. Okay.
Betsy, have you had, well, I guess two-part question. Have you had people reach out to you through LinkedIn for employment with FDM? And do you use LinkedIn to look for people?
Okay, so I have very mixed feelings about LinkedIn, and I gave you all my LinkedIn contact information, and I was gonna go into this, so I'm glad you asked, Julio. So I am not a fan of the cold calling on LinkedIn. So what I mean by that is I get just random like connects with no messages. I'm not connecting with you. I don't even know who you are, right? Remember, I had a whole career before my career at FDM. So I'm trying to figure out, what is this person trying to reach out to me for? What do they want? When I get something, for instance, you guys say, hey, thank you for meeting with, us during this event. Really enjoyed, if you didn't, don't lie. Would love to connect with you again, right? I feel like there should always be a call to action. Don't just hit me up like, don't expect me to reach out to you with the job opportunity, because I'm not, honestly. I'm lucky I know where I am in my next hour. So if you want to connect with me, give me that call to action. I love when students say, hey, I heard you speak at this event, or we met at this career fair. Do you want to do, can we jump on a call or a video chat? We used to say coffee in person now, right? But virtual coffee, absolutely. To me, that's students going above the extra mile. So LinkedIn is great to connect with people, but back it up with something. If you've never met the person and you want to connect with them on LinkedIn, that's fine too, but put a message. Hi, I see that you work for XYZ company that I'm very interested in. I was wondering if you would be able to spare some time to meet with me, because I'd like to ask you more about XYZ position, or more about XYZ's company culture. Okay, great. To just go to a recruiter and say, hey, can you review my resume? No, I want to know, why are you reaching out to me? So it could be a very powerful tool if you use it correctly. Are recruiters on there sourcing? Absolutely. So make sure your LinkedIn profiles are up to date. I think there's a little switch on there, like open to opportunities. Make sure that's on. There are recruiters sourcing that will cold call you with opportunities, and that's okay. But if you want to talk to people, if you want to talk to the recruiters, go that extra mile, show them why. And, I kind of liken it to Facebook. This isn't Facebook. You're not just friending everybody. Be like, I want to connect with you because if you were referred to me by somebody, excellent. Hey, I spoke to my career counselor, Julio. He suggested that I touch base with you because he thinks you'll be able to help me with this. I'm hitting accept. Hey, here's my email. Let's connect. What time works for you? Make sure there's a call to action with it.
Yeah, I think a lot of times we forget that a recruiter's job is to bring in talent, and we can make their job easier by showing them just what we bring.
Right.
And I think most of us have that mentality that when we're looking for work, we're kind of at the mercy of the employer. But I think if we change our mindset and really present ourselves more confidently, that we're making the job easier for the recruiter. And so you want to make sure that you've got everything in line, so that when you approach a recruiter, you have their resume, you have your elevator speech, you've done the research, and you're really coming to them with direct action. I think a lot of times we kind of...
Yeah, and career fairs are not mini interviews. Career fairs are truly an opportunity for you. If anyone's going to interview, it's you to interview the recruiter. It's for you to find out more information and follow up for a formal interview. No one's interviewing you in 10 minutes. I think that's what Handshake gives us now, 10 minutes, simplicity, 8 minutes, right? This is an opportunity for you to ask questions. I like to tell my students, have a list of your questions. You don't have to stick to them like a robot, but know basically what's important to you so that you can ask every company and so that you can compare the answers. So that, because to Julio's point, you're not necessarily at the mercy of the company. You get to pick the company too. You're allowed to say that opportunity is not the right opportunity for me. So what is important to you? Is it salary? And I'll talk about that in a minute. Is it a company with a social justice mission? Is it a company that supports its employees in volunteerism by giving them time off to volunteer, by supporting certain volunteer initiatives? You know, is it sustainability? What is important to you? Is it innovative and cutting edge? Startups can be very scary to some folks, but some folks love startups. I'm a fan of them because you really get your hands dirty and you really get involved. And so what is important to you? Salary, honestly, should not be what's most important to you. I 100% understand we all have bills. You do not want to look at my student loans. I get it. We all have responsibilities. I'm going to share another little tidbit for you. I left one university to go to another that paid significantly less. But I started thinking about my long-term goals. And I knew that making that move and taking on that position was going to set me up for future success. So I didn't go out as much that year or the next, but I had to look at my ultimate, I also had to look at some of the other benefits that companies provide that not necessarily are in salary. So again, what's important to you? Health insurance, 401k, personal time off, so vacation time, sick time, all of those things. What is important to me that's going to help me have a really great life, work-life balance. I still coach and I still train, and those things are important to me. So I wanted to go to a company that was going to be supportive of my volunteer initiatives and things of that nature. So when you're asking these questions during these career fairs, that's a really good time to start gauging, is this company in line with what's important to me?
Thank you. Does anybody else have any other questions or concerns? I know we have a lot of seniors, so this is an opportunity to ask those types of questions that you may not feel comfortable asking to other recruiters.
Is it a sign that we did really bad if they don't respond back to us at all? As in, like, they don't even announce that we regret to inform you. Like, they just don't say anything.
Yeah. So it's so funny you say that, because a friend of mine, who also a higher ed senior leadership guy, was in a position. We were both looking for work at the same time, and we were like beating our head on the keyboards. We're like, wow, no one has the courtesy to not respond anymore. No. There could be a few reasons why you didn't hear anything. Sometimes it's just volume. There's just so many applicants that if we stop to say, thank you for your resume, thank you for your time and all of that, they would never be moving through the application process. I know myself, when I review, I try to get back to everybody. I do, but I physically can't do it every time. And it really upsets me because I never want somebody to ask that question that you just asked me and be like, wow, did I just do that bad? So let's rewind back to kind of what I said earlier. It's not you personally. Don't take it personal. If you've done all the right things, which you're here, so that tells me you're already doing the right things. If you're mock interviewing with the career office and with each other, if you're getting your resume reviewed with your career office and your mentors and all of that, if you've done all the right things, then it's not you. If you haven't done the prep work, right, you don't take the final without taking the course and learning the material. If you haven't done the prep work, then I can see why you would ask yourself that. But if you've put in the work and you've done everything that your career offices are telling you to do to prepare, then it's not you. It's not personal. They're not just ignoring you. It's more than likely just the volume. They just can't get to it. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
I think I'm doing a good job not taking it personally. I was just like, I like to use it as like feedback. Like, okay, well, what I did differently in this interview, but they didn't respond back, so maybe I should stop doing that part.
Yeah, it's really tough. Human, we're human, and it's very hard not to take things personally. I have to remind myself all the time. It's also very hard for us to give feedback. There's a lot of legalities that really prevent us sometimes from giving you that feedback. So that's another thing to keep in mind. It's not necessarily that you were so awful nobody wants to talk to you. Sometimes it's the volume, and sometimes it's a company policy. Don't go there. Don't open that Pandora's box, because when we're looking for jobs, we're very emotional. Everybody's very emotional. It's a very stressful time, and something can be taken out of context. And then you're like, oh my God, you thought I was terrible or this. So sometimes we're just like, you know what, let's not even open that Pandora's box. I would always say, go back to your career office, go back to your career office, go back to your career office, because they can give you the feedback. Participate in those mock interviews. I've done several with different universities, and you'll get us recruiters, because that's an opportunity where we can give you feedback. Do that time and time again. Take advantage of those opportunities. Absolutely.
One of the things I would add is that a lot of companies, depending on the size, will have applicant tracking systems. So when you apply to a job, if you don't meet the criteria, or you didn't make it through, your resume may be held in their system for six months to a year. And they do that because somebody else may come in to do another search, and you might fit their criteria. So they keep those resumes on site or on the database. So, but I don't think they necessarily send rejection letters to those people. So you're kind of left hanging out in the air. It feels that way.
Yeah.
But I have heard from other people who will say, I applied to position A, but I actually got an interview for position B. It wasn't what I applied for, but when I looked at it, I figured I could do it too, and it was with the same company. So there's that, and unfortunately, we don't always hear about that. So that's something to be mindful of. It, like she said, it's not always about us. It's not a personal issue. Mark?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I see a question there. Let me see if I understand this correctly. Right. Small town outside Fort Worth. I've been to Fort Worth. I love it there.
Yes.
Understanding of the. Do many of the firm's clients stay within cities?
Yeah, like does FDM have clients mostly in metropolitan areas?
Oh, yeah, we do. Most of our clients are large. So generally speaking, our clients are financial clients. So they are in large metropolitan areas. We do have in Texas specifically, I know that Shell is one of our clients. So I know we work with SiriusXM. I know we work with Shake Shack. Everybody loves Shake Shack. So we do work with ones that are outside of finance, but the majority do tend to be finance, the big banks and things of that nature. Yeah.
Cool. And that the position, the location where I interviewed with It's about an hour, hour and a half out of Fort Worth.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, I know Fort Worth. Anything after that, it was almost 10 years ago that I was there for a conference. And so, yeah, I mean, if you, so kind of what you made me think about, Mark, is, so for FDM in particular, we do like to hire candidates that are geographically flexible, that are open to relocation. So if that is something that you all are in your prospective fields are open, make sure you articulate that too. Like, you know what, I'm also open for relocation, and find out if they have relocation support. Because that could also be another good opportunity where you're like, hey, you know, I'm looking at this, but me as a recruiter, I'm thinking, you know, I have this available. Would you be interested in that? And if I already know you're open to relocation, I'm more than likely going to suggest that to you. So.
Very good.
Well, we are almost 10 minutes out, so this is going to be your last chance to ask any questions. Ms. Betsy put her LinkedIn in the chat, so you can always follow up with her. Make sure you tell her that you're part of today's coffee chat. That way she won't ignore
you get priority. Yep, any questions? Cool.
All right.
Well, if I can impart one more piece of wisdom, networking and mentoring, very, very important aspects. I'm sure you guys have heard it. You know, mentors can come in different ways. They can be assigned to you. There's a lot of different professional organizations that assign mentors. I have always found most of my success of finding mentors through my networks. And I think when we think about networking, we think about going into a room with a group of professionals in the same field and trading business cards. And that's all fine. That I've done that, trust me. Well, now with LinkedIn, we do the little QR codes. But don't discount networking outside of professional organizations. So if you have a passion, volunteer in that passion, and you can connect with folks. And I'm a storyteller, if you haven't figured that out. I guess the best example I can give is I volunteer with an organization called Team Red, White, and Blue. It's a veteran service organization. We love to do like ruck marches and runs and volunteer work. And, you know, here you are shoulder to shoulder, working, volunteering. I get to see firsthand people's work ethic right there, right? So if I put out a call for volunteers, who's going to show up at 1 o'clock to help with this initiative? I see who's there, you know. And I'm sorry, I'm being buzzed. Let me just cancel that. And so again, you just never know who's there. So one of my friends that I volunteer with works on the New York Stock Exchange. If you saw him, you would have never guessed it. The guy, like, you just, not because he's sloppy or anything, but he just doesn't talk about it, right? He's there to volunteer. And so when came time for him to create an internship program, and he asked me about something, I said, oh yeah, what about so-and-so who just did, you know, the volunteer opportunity with us? And he was like, oh, that's right. You know, they've come out to 2 of our events already. They're always on time. They're always trustworthy. You know, we can, yeah, definitely. And that's how one of our students got an internship on the New York Stock Exchange. And so, you know, you can do networking very formally, or you can do it very informally, but even more important than that, always put your best foot forward. Even if this isn't related to what you want to do, put your best foot forward. I used to joke around when I had to file, I'm gonna file the heck out of those files. It's gonna be in perfect A through Z order. You know, I'm gonna do the best filing job I can do. Always put your best foot forward. You never know who's watching. You never know who's paying attention. And just when you're counting yourself down and you're getting all those no's, that person who's seen you put your best foot forward and do your best work is going to be that mentor or that lifeline that you need to kind of help you give that extra push. So put your best foot forward, be your authentic self, and you know, be easy on yourselves, be kind to yourselves. It's going to be tough, but it'll work out. I promise you, it will work out.
Yeah, that's definitely your professors right now. You know, those are the people who may get a call from their friends in industry who say, hey, we need somebody. And if you've networked with those professors, if you built a relationship, they may reach out to you and say, look, there's a position over here in the Woodlands or whatever. So you just never know, but I would always try to attach yourself to the people in that industry or in the periphery to really increase your odds of getting employment where you want to be.
Can you resend your LinkedIn
Yeah,
link,
sure.
please, in the chat? I missed that. Apologize for that.
No worries. Double screens here are my friend, so I got it up there already for you guys. Listen,
Thank you.
again, I appreciate you guys being here. If you want to connect, send me a message through LinkedIn or my email. I'll put that in there too. Probably LinkedIn is easier. And I'm more than happy to connect with you guys offline, just a one-on-one. Again, more than happy. Doesn't have to be related to FDM. If you want it to be, that's great. If you don't, that's okay too. I'm more than happy. I don't pretend to know it all. I just like to share my experiences and hope that something resonates with you all and helps you on your journey. That's all I'm really here to do.
Awesome. Well, Betsy, thank you so much. I'm very grateful, and I think you provided a lot of good information for our students. Thank you for making yourself available through your email and LinkedIn. But just thanks again. It was wonderful and a lot of really good information.
Hi guys, stay safe. Hopefully I'll come visit soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.